Today's reading is a continuation of the readings that I've been doing for the last few weeks from the Song of the Avadhut Gita. And this is the sage Dattatreya, who's throughout this book is giving his instruction to his student. And so he continues. On a full moon night, the moon is seen by unhazed eyes as one alone. The reality should also be seen this way. Where two are seen, sight's impaired. Because there is one and only one, the mind which perceives two is false. One who teaches this is truly great, deserving 1,000 accolades. A guru gives the gift of wisdom to both the wise and the foolish, but only the one who crosses over this ocean of life is the one who attains the knowledge of truth. One who is free from attachment, free from hate, engaged in securing the good of all, firm in knowledge and steady of mind, will reach at last to the highest state. The space inside a jar merges in the space outside when the jar is destroyed. The yogi, when the body is destroyed, merges into the universal consciousness, one's own true self. The destiny of those devoted to action is the result of their thought at the end of their life. But the destiny of the sage established in unity is not determined by thought at the end. One may express in speech the destiny of those devoted to actions, but the destiny of those established in union cannot be told. They go beyond speech. A yogi has no particular path. Simply renouncing imagining things, the mind then ceases of its own accord, and the perfect state just naturally occurs. Whenever a yogi may meet their end, whether beside a holy river or in an outcast's hut, births are through, merging in Brahman. One who has realized the innate, unborn, incomprehensible self never becomes stained while enjoying the fruits of desire, remaining always free of stain, free of karma. The ascetic, concentrated on the self, is never bound. Going beyond illusion, beyond comparison, beyond form, beyond any support, beyond the body and its nourishment, beyond duality, fear, desire, and powers. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. This attainment is not the Vedas, nor initiation, nor a clean-shaven head. It is not a guru, or disciples, or bountiful treasures, or the practice of postures, or wearing of ashes. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. One does not envision the form of great Shiva, or Shakti, or any other gods or goddesses. One does not see Kundalini, or light forms, or the feet of God, nor does one perceive one's own soul, like a jar with its contents. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. That is the essence from which the sentient and insentient universe is born. It is like the ocean which gives birth to the foam on its surface. It is that by which everything is maintained and dissolved. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. One's attainment is not breath control or fixed stares or yogic postures. Nothing becomes learned or unlearned at all. One's attainment is not the purification of the nerves. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. One does not attain a many or a one that is separate from oneself. It is not something other, like an object with length and breadth. It cannot be objectively proven or compared with anything. It's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, which is attained. One may or may not attain concentration. One may or may not attain freedom from the senses. One may or may not abandon all actions. It is the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, that is attained. Beyond mind, intellect, body, and sense organs, beyond the subtle elements and the 5 gross elements, beyond the sense of ego, or even the ethereal body, it's the Lord, the Self, the Eternal, that is attained. Transcending all dictates, abiding in the Self, mind becomes free of the thought of duality. Neither purity, nor impurity, nor distinctions of gender, nor fortune, nor misfortune has any meaning. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome to Satsang. So in this particular section of the Avadhuta Gita, Dattatreya is very directly kicking all the supports for mind out of the way. It's really common for us in our sadhana, in our practice, such as it is, to want to describe what does it mean to be aware, what does it mean to be awake. And the mind has all of these ideas about what that is. And these ideas can be supported. We can buy dozens, hundreds of books, watch dozens, hundreds of videos of teachers, and go on retreats. And everywhere we go, there will be some idea about how to attain something, the awakened state, which we already possess. But it's only, as far as I know, it's only ever been proposed in Advaita, non-duality, that freedom is already here, it's already present. It is our nature to be free, to be unbound. And that in order to get there, in order to see this true nature, this truth of our being, Sat Chitananda, being, consciousness, bliss, that all we need to do is keep dropping the mind, keep dropping the opinions, and the explanations that the mind likes to give for what it means to be awake. So in this section of the Avadhuta Gita, the sage just kicks all the supports out of the mind's tendency, underneath the mind's tendency to make up a story, a beautiful story often, but a story nonetheless, about what it means to be awake, what it means to be aware here, now, in this moment. And so he's constantly reminding us throughout this section about all of the tendencies in the mind that need to be put down in order for us to realize the heart of our own being. Sat Chitananda, being, consciousness, bliss. That which you are, and which rises naturally as your own being when you put down all the stories around who you think you are, or you've been told you are, or around what you think you need to do in order to become something else. He's reminding his devotee, his student, that when you drop all of these tendencies in mind, all of these projections, that what you see is yourself. Not yourself that says, I am the body, I am the mind, or I am the emotions, but the self which is before all of those and can only be seen clearly when all the tendencies in the mind are let go, when all the stories about who I am, what I need, what I want, who the other is, have been put down. And there's a silence which comes over the mind as it becomes more comfortable with its own nature as awareness, and allows us to see directly, I am that which is aware. Under all circumstances, in all situations, beyond all concepts, you are that which is aware. And that this awareness, this suchness, this isness of this moment is eternal. It has no past. It has no future. It simply is. And in the waking state, as we are now, what can be seen when the mind is quiet is simply knowing I am here. Awareness which is present without any object, without the need for opinion, without the need for past, without the need for future, is the nature of our existence. Regardless of what is apparent or appears on the screen of awareness. this practice of knowing who I am, not as the body or the mind or the emotions, but simply as pure awareness here, now, is often referred to as inquiry. What's being referred to here by the sages is not a practice. It doesn't take years. It's a simple recognition that if I keep returning to this awareness, which is free from opinion, free from status, free from labeling, I can notice that I'm always aware under all circumstances, just by asking the question, what is aware of this? Or, who am I? Or noticing directly, I am aware. As soon as I notice that I am aware and don't pursue anything that I might be aware of, whether it be sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, thought, body in some way, mind in some way. But if I just remain aware in this moment, then I begin to touch my own nature. It's not my nature, it's just nature, as being, consciousness, bliss. It is our nature. When we're no longer interested in there being a me and a you. And this recognition is referred to as the inquiry. This returning, whenever we're lost, whenever we begin to pursue some experience in the body, mind, or world, is a simple remembrance to ask this question, and what is aware of this? Or who is it that's perceiving this? Or who is it that's experiencing this? Any form of this question withdraws the mind and the attention from the direct experiences of perception and puts it in the direct experience of awareness itself. That which is necessary in order for any form of experience to occur. And once we do this, what we're doing is creating a space, if you will, which is already there, so we're tapping into it, but it feels like we're creating a space in some way for grace, for direct perception of being that which is aware rather than what that is aware of. This experience can come. And when this experience comes, what is experienced along with it in some way is a recognition that I am unbound. I am free. So whatever is happening in this moment, in any given moment, I am free of that, though it still goes on. So we're not trying to repress or suppress our experience. We're not trying to escape the world because we don't want to be there, we don't like it, it's not a good place, it's not fun. We're just recognizing that we're always free, regardless of what our experience is. Is this something you're always experiencing now? Are you aware that you're always free? this knowledge, I am that which is aware, I am always free, is available to you here now. There is no need to wait, to practice for years. This isn't a requirement, though some of you will. But as soon as you free yourself from the belief that you're not already free, you are free. This freedom that I'm speaking of is much more than the freedom to go where you wish, to live where you want, to vote for who you want, to have the career that you want. All of these things are secondary to the innate freedom which you have in this moment, once it's recognized. When I speak about these things, however, sometimes some of you will think that I'm talking about something that's easy to know. And so I remind you always, it's easy to speak the words, but sometimes it's not easy to remain as freedom. And so the question always arises, how do I do that? And the answer always is, know that you are aware by inquiring into your state in any given moment with the question, what is aware of this? Who am I? Am I aware? And as soon as you come to realize that regardless of what's going on in the external or in the mind, once you realize you are here now and you are aware, now rest. And let whatever is be. You remain firm in the recognition of your own awareness as being and consciousness. So the only effort you need to undertake is the effort to remember you are aware. As soon as you come to this recognition, I am aware, rest. The scriptures say that in this resting state, it's possible for what's called grace, which I can't really define, to have its way. What it means, though, for grace to have its way, is this recognition, I am that which is aware, becomes your constant state, your constant recognition. It's not even a state, it's just your constant knowing. I am aware. That is why in Advaita, it's often said that this knowing can only be described as knowing. And this is why Dattatreya Avanuta is swatting away all of the traditional beliefs and practices around what it means to be liberated, what it means to be awake. He doesn't wish us to get caught up in more concepts in the mind. More concepts, no matter how lofty and no matter how useful at certain times, while we're trying to simply remember, I am aware, just lead to a support for the mind, to the belief that I can understand what's being spoken of here with the mind, that I can figure this out conceptually. This is a real piece of mind candy for us, isn't it? Because we're taught throughout our lives that the way we live our lives is to figure out with the mind how to get things all in the right order. And that if we get everything in the right order, we'll be happy. But Advaita Vedanta flips that on its head and says, you're already happy, you're already free. Have you noticed? And it calls us to noticing that and to leave everything else alone. That's why practices such as this, or understanding such as this, is often referred to as swimming upstream. Why? Because there's very few places in the world, especially in contemporary societies, where you can hear, stop it. Don't believe everything you've been told. Stop going along with the crowd. And in the moment of stopping, come to recognize that you are aware and rest there. Regardless of where the body and the mind and the emotions are at that moment in perception. Every time you withdraw from body, mind, and world, the perception that you are bound, and come back through the inquiry to the recognition that you are that which is aware, even if what you're aware of is not pleasant, even if it's completely unpleasant, it still has its foundation in the consciousness and the awareness which you are. Rejoice in that, even when you are feeling bound. Slowly, slowly, for most of us, this recognition that you are that which is aware will begin to show you your own innate happiness. That which you are before all thought. Because you can notice, even now, even though you consider yourself to be in an unawakened state, that any moment in which you are feeling unhappiness was preceded by a thought in the mind. And that unhappiness is supported by continued thinking, either about why you are unhappy or about how you can stop being unhappy. But in satsang, this is a Sanskrit word, some of you may not be familiar with it, generally translated into English as association with truth. What we're constantly being drawn back to, the truth which we're constantly being drawn back to and which is constantly being pointed out, is that without the awareness which you are in this moment, regardless of what you're experiencing. Nothing is possible. Even in deep sleep, when there's no body and no mind, awareness, there still is the awareness. That you are awareness. This can be seen and can be proven by when you awaken in the morning. First thing you know is I slept well or I didn't sleep well. So this shows us that body awareness and mind awareness need not be present for awareness itself to be present. There need not be any association in the mind with the world or with the body or with our experiences for us to know I slept well. So what the inquiry is for is that we begin to learn to stay in this state of pristine awareness, or in this place of pristine awareness. It's not a state because it's our nature. To stay in this place of pristine awareness, even in the waking state. Sri Ramana used to say, remain asleep even as you are awake in the waking state. What he was meaning, what he was pointing toward, is that it takes no mind to know that you are here. And in fact, it is consciousness, awareness in this moment, which is free of thinking, free of reaction, free of concept, which will show you your nature as awareness itself. So now we're not struggling with or arguing with the waking state. We're not struggling with the state of our bodies. We're not struggling with the state of our minds. We're not struggling with the state of the world. We have no resistance to that. We actually have no interest in that. We're just allowing that to go on as it will, while we remain as awareness itself. That which is necessary for any awareness at all to happen, for any recognition or experience to happen. By staying in this place of recognition, of awareness itself, we free ourselves slowly, for most of us, sometimes suddenly, from our entanglement with our own minds, our own bodies, and the world. And this becomes our recognition that I am already free. So now you have to drop all of the concepts I just laid out in front of you. You know, I only do this week after week as a reminder. This is a way, if you will, to approach, to undermine your belief that you are not already free. So, I just lay this out week after week. But if you've understood at all where I'm pointing, now you are just here. Can it be this simple? And if you are just here now, can you feel your own happiness? Not the kind of happiness, of course, that comes from getting something you've wanted for a long time, or someone you've wanted for a long time. This happiness is expressed in different ways, felt in different ways. Different people have different senses of what this means, but it's a sense of peacefulness, a sense of comfort, a sense of freedom from your own thoughts and concerns in this moment. And so we just keep coming back to this moment by moment, and of course every week here, to this very same conversation. Just to give you a taste of yourself as freedom, as being and consciousness. So that this becomes the place which you orient toward, right? This is your compass north. I am that which is aware under all circumstances. When you feel yourself to be lost, if you're out in the woods and you're on a long, long hike on the Continental Divide Trail and you've lost the trail, you can take out your compass and look and say, oh, I will go that way. And this inquiry is simply like that. Whenever you feel yourself to be lost, your compass is, am I aware? What is aware? And come back to that. And what can be seen over time, but often very quickly, for some of you, is that you become lost, distracted, less and less. That more and more you are just here, in whatever here-ness you have at the moment, whatever space you're in. You are just here. And you begin to relax in all the spaces in which you find the body and the mind. You let go of resistance and struggle, and you're simply here, trusting life, trusting yourself as being consciousness. And a great peacefulness and relaxation can come over you. And you'll realize you are that. This is your nature. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to be. In this moment you recognize that you are happiness. The bliss of being in consciousness as the only experience, if you will, that matters. Though it's not an experience, right? Because an experience is happening to someone. To know you are having an experience is to set yourself aside or opposite to whatever is happening. So it can't really be said it's to be an experience. It only can be said that it is myself. The self, not even myself. So is this clear? Anything that isn't clear to you? Let's talk about it for a moment.
Grace sort of transitioned over the years for me. Just being totally confused. I don't know what that's about. Grace.
Yeah.
What
right.
is that?
Yeah.
To thinking that Grace is this lovely sister that comes around and taps me on the shoulder and says, "Michael, it's your turn." To realizing that grace is not external. Grace is internal. Grace is always present. And there's probably at least a dozen synonyms for grace.
Yes.
You know,
And of course, none of those synonyms, not even the word grace, can describe the fact that we are always the ocean. You can call it the ocean of grace. Yeah. But in truth, we're just always the ocean of being, or grace, or whatever those other 22 synonyms are. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be separated.
No. And this is why Dattatreya points out right in the beginning that there is no separation, and there is not even one. Right? We cannot say, I am separate, any more than we can say, I am one. Because as soon as we take any side of the duality, right, we've missed the point. And this is why, in the Advaita frame of reference, it's said that any time the experience of two is present, it doesn't make any difference whether it's me and you, or grace and non-grace, right? Awakening and unawakening, non-awakening, freedom and bound. Whenever we take a side of that, we are missing. Because what's being pointed to here is always here. We use the mind to try to define what it is. So we say things like consciousness, God, grace. We use these words, but in the final analysis, And these things are very real along the path of awakening, if you want to call it that. But in the end, all of the concepts have to be let go of. And this does not take a long time. Unless you need to work your way through all of the concepts. Right? This is why there are 10,000 and more books about spirituality, about awakening, in all the traditions. It's because some of us have this need to work our way slowly through all of the possible concepts, and in fact come to the place where we recognize that I'm exhausted from this search. I have read 20,000 books and still I don't feel free. This is because we're searching for that freedom, that which we are, this awareness, still in concepts which are understandable to the mind. And you know, the mind's only job is to prove its worth. So as long as you need to find meaning through your mind, you'll miss what's being talked about here. Because the concepts, though useful, will only take you so far. And at some point, you have to look for yourself and ask this question: what is aware? What receives grace? What is outside and inside? You see, all of these terms are used to denote some form of separation. Mind and not mind. You see, we're not saying mind is bad, right? Mind is just another concept, because after all, what is mind? Mind is just a perception of thoughts. These are arising spontaneously in us all the time. But over time, from a very young age or across lifetimes, we come to believe that these thoughts, this pattern that we can become aware of, we can watch, this thinking process, we come to believe that that's important and significant. And in fact, right, life teaches us that. Our parents teach us that, schools teach us that, through mathematics, science, all kinds of learning. So these things are valuable to the mind, and they're valuable in terms of interacting with the world. Not a problem until we come to think, this is who I am, this thinking mind. Because at the moment we come to believe, this is who I am, is the thinking mind, we stop exploring further. We don't actually say to the mind, really? Are you the supreme one? We don't challenge it. And then we live out of the boxes that the mind constructs for us. And each and every one of us has had this experience. The thing that's significant, which has happened for you and has brought you here, is you've realized that the boxes of the mind are limiting you. You know, whether you know what it is or not, you know there is something more. I hesitate even to use the word more, because that seems to speak of some kind of level. Maybe it's better to say you have a deep intuitional knowing, in order to be sitting in this room, that the mind and its limits are not the limit of who you are. And of course, every one of us has this experience at different times during our lives where something has occurred, something is happening with us or in us or through us, and for just a brief second, that long, the mind drops, it stops. Something brought it to a halt. Some sort of a shock, or just some sort of a peaceful moment. Being out in nature happens for a lot of people. Experience a great moment of love, and the mind stops, boom. we have this recognition that even without the mind, I am. Now I know that the mind doesn't and cannot limit me. It can be here or it can be gone. And this recognition that I am is still here. And I was when the mind was here and evident, and I was when the mind was gone and not evident. Right? This is the whole analogy of waking state and deep sleep state. Is that there is this recognition in all of us that you are aware, whether your body is present, whether mind is present, whether world is present. You don't simply cease being because you go into a deep sleep state and drop the body and drop the mind.
I experience a certain delight when mind, when ego voices a thought that is so outrageous that I have to applaud. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's just noticing
Yeah, mind as magician.
weird things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is a great opportunity, of course, because at the moment that you notice that, it can become really clear to you that you're able to watch thought, right? If you can watch thought, if you can watch thinking, if you can watch this creative capacity of mind, who are you? What is watching that? What knows that? What's laughing? Now sometimes you just want to have a good laugh, right? Because the laughter and the delight isn't yours either. It's just the nature of what is at that moment, in that moment. But it's a great opportunity. That's why I'm always encouraging you all to continue throughout all of your experiences, positive, negative, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, to notice that you are aware. If you notice that you are aware, then the nature of experience is secondary. Isn't it true? So if you are aware all the time, now who are you? Do you know? You see, there is no you. There's only awareness. Is this enough for you? Or do you need to have a story? Do you need to be separate? By remaining aware, not as an activity, just by being aware and noticing I am aware and resting in that, you not only free yourself from all of your stories, your beliefs, your limited structures, you free the rest of the world, the rest of the apparent creation as well. Everyone in life is so busy trying to get their point across. We see this a lot these days especially. Trying to support their point, their position, their point of view. Everyone is so busy with that. That they won't even notice someone standing in front of them who is free of all that. You will become invisible to the world. free everyone in your presence. Even if you don't convince them. Can it possibly matter what the world thinks of you if you are free? So this mantra that I'm going to chant here is a mantra of healing. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarugamiva Vandinan Mrityor Mukshi Amamritawa Swaha Muva Bu Om Sat Shung Hang